Ms. Frishy.
Last year, if everybody recalls, AEP and Hancock Wood spent a lot of time with us with regards to territories. And we did not make a motion at that time last year. We kind of kicked the can down the road. And we told AEP and Hancock Wood to play nice. We actually even sent a letter out from council to both entities. I think council president may have received a phone call. I know I did. I don't know what other council members have. That the new Campbell's site, which is 70% on Hancock Wood's territory, AEP is taking that. So they are asking that we honor what we were saying last year and change the franchise agreements to territories. And I would support that if another member of council would be supportive of that legislation.
Mr. Wolfson.
I would be supportive of that legislation. I was in support of it last time.
Mr. Rasmussen, will you draw some sort of agreement up, or how will that be handled?
Well, those both of those agreements will have to be amended, so there'll have to be some discussion about it. I hadn't heard that, certainly.
So then, does this need to be assigned to a particular committee, sir, or what would you recommend in order that we can move this forward?
Why would we need?
Well, we're going to have to amend the franchise agreements.
Correct, but we did a lot of discussion last year, so why would it go to committee again? And I mean, we sent a letter.
Because you didn't do anything to change it. So
all right, we don't have committee meetings very often, but that would be fine with me. Okay.
Whatever, if you want to refer to a committee of your liking, or if we just meet and sit down and try and discuss it, it doesn't matter to me. I'm open for suggestions.
Ms. Frishy, since you broached the subject, what would you like to do?
If it needs to go to committee, I'm more than welcome to go to a committee meeting. But if it's just changing to territory, Don, isn't that kind of a standard verbiage that we're going to take that to, that we've had, that would not need a committee, since we had 9 council members last year, I believe, that basically echoed the same thing?
You know, we basically didn't change them. We made a slight tweak to Hancock Woods, but AEP's has never changed.
Yeah, so I just think it pretty much is legal, and you drawing up territory agreements for both AEP and Hancock Wood, and then council passing it, right?
Well, I'm not going to be drawing up territorial limits, because that's a PUCO.
Well, no, I mean, they would follow the PUCO territories that are already set in place, correct? We're not drawing our own lines.
Well, you would be, because you would be preventing them from operating, AEP from operating in the city in a piece of territory that they currently are able to operate in.
But I think
that was an issue we had the last time.
I believe it's already in their territory.
Right. It's in AEP's
so we're not changing territory. We're just taking away
you're taking
the
away
municipal
their
franchise.
You're taking away their territory. In other words, they have the whole city, and that property is in the city. And Hancock Wood Electric has it by the map.
But we didn't ever draw those originals, so we want both to go back to the map, so everybody plays nice. And I know Hancock Wood and AEP were here, and I know AEP on the record said it wouldn't affect them, other than they wouldn't be able to steal clients.
The argument is the same. It's a PUCO issue, and PUCO.
So should we contact AEP and Hancock Wood and ask them for verbiage? Is that what we're? I mean, I'm not going to write the verbiage in a committee meeting. It's coming back on you.
No, because no matter what happens, they're going to go down to the PUCO and say.
But it takes the city out of it.
Yes, I'm trying to take the city out of it entirely without drafting any ordinances. That's why we didn't redraft them last time. We just said, get along, and they didn't get along. So the whole issue's always been a PUCO issue. They're the only ones that can say whose territory it is.
Let them fight it out in Columbus.
Well,
Exactly
I
right.
think it's also probably prudent
Something hard to understand.
for you as council, if you're interested in changing this, which by all means, whatever you feel is the most prudent thing to do. But I think it's important for you to know everything that's happening, as opposed to just maybe a conversation with one entity or another, or a conversation with Campbell's. You know, these deals are done in the private sector. These businesses get to choose what they want to do. I think that's the best scenario for us to go by. I am not aware that someone is not playing nice. No one's had that conversation with me. And I think it's, before you go changing things because of some telephone call that you may have received from one entity or another, it's probably important for council to hear the whole story.
So past policy to get economic development happening, they followed the PUCO and they traded property, which was the big discussion last year. We told them to continue on that same process or we would change to territory. We sent a letter to both parties also stating that. I'm more than willing, Dawn, if we want to have a committee or if you want to draw it up, but I think it needs to be done to take the city out of it completely. And that was, and both parties agreed it wouldn't hurt either one of them, other than they couldn't take from the other party without going through the PUCO. And that would take the city out of it. And that's what I made a motion for and have a second. So however, Dawn, if you want a committee, let's do it. And if you want to draw it up and have it for the next council meeting, that would be great.
Well, somebody's gonna have to tell me what they want me to draw up, because we don't have any control over it. We can make our ordinances, and then PUCO will settle it.
Yep,
So-
but it takes us out of, that's what we've said from the beginning. The
We're
PUCO
out of
can
it
make,
from the very
no.
beginning. We
All
have
right.
been out of it. All they have to do is go to the PUCO, they have their franchise agreements, and argue it. That's who's gonna resolve the issue.
So, again, we're asking for a territorial ordinance for both. And if you would like me to look up other entities, other communities, if they do it that way for the verbiage, I would be glad to do that.
Mr. Klein?
I'd like to know who Campbell wants to do business with.
Oh my God.
Mr. Watson?
I mean, that's a fair question too.
I was just going to suggest, and I know I didn't request legislation or a second, but would it be simpler just to say that, have the language reflect what the last ordinance did? Because it seemed like that was what we were discussing at the time. And so in terms of language, I know that specific language, I believe, was provided by Hancock Wood's lawyers.
And those are the current documents. So we did not make any changes after that, so those are the current documents. So it's Hancock Wood's territory by the territorial map, and it's also AEP because it's inside the city of Findlay. So now you've got this dispute, and we're not the ones to settle the dispute. PUCO has total control of it.
So I guess
And they've known that.
what specific legislation did I remember it not passing when we voted earlier last year?
No, we made a minor change to Hancock Wood electrics.
Ms. Frishy?
Tim, the past practice was what we have it had for like 30 years, I think. But there was a legal case someplace else that then allowed another utility to take from another one, and it got turned over and all that fun stuff, which is what caused them to come in. So there was two parts of the discussion from the very beginning. There was the lines, creating competition with the lines, or in the wholesale market. We're not in the wholesale market, but the lines is what our discussion was. And if everybody followed their territorial lines and we removed the muni citywide and took AEP back to territory, they would still have their same territory. They're not losing anything. But what's happening now is Hancock Wood is a smaller business, which we want to promote business, but we don't want to put another company out of business. And so they're simply asking to be able to do business in their territory. Past practice has been, if there was a request from Campbell's or from any entity wanting to come into the community for economic development, they took it, they discussed it, they swapped property. That's not happening. And that was the big discussion we had. And everybody, the majority of council seemed to agree with that, but we did not pass that change to keep everybody singing Kumbaya. Obviously, the letter that Mr. Slough sent to both entities and the long, lengthy discussion during council on the record did not get through to AEP. And so Hancock Wood reached out and said, will you please honor and do what you said that you would do? And will you take it to territories? And I'm a woman of my word, and I would be more than happy to do that. It's not depriving anybody of business. It's taking the city out of it, so they can take it down to the PUCO if they are territories, and we have no say, and everybody can work it out together.
Mr. Schindelbecker.
Do we know that a deal has not been put together between AEP and Hancock Wood over the Campbell property? Do we really know that?
I received a phone call from Hancock Wood when they were told verbally from AEP that they are telling Campbell's to write a letter that they want AEP. Is that what you're asking, Mr. Schindeldecker?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
So we have a letter, but we really don't know.
Any other discussion?
It was a phone call, right?
Okay. Any other old business? Mr. Harrington.